What are you trying to tell me? Does it make any sense? And is it even true? Those, I think, sum up my reactions to stories and to many things in life. And some of they're similar but not quite the same. And I think asking those questions is often why I'm not sure what to say. I lose the plot somehow. I forget things outside of the very moment. Sometimes within the moment, I know I'm not going crazy. I know what's going on and why I feel a certain way or why I'm reacting a certain way. But then once I'm finished everything, and then I go to tell you about it, I forget what it was, or I start to lose confidence because, like, why was I feeling like that? I don't remember. I don't know. But what are you trying to tell me? Often gets messed up because there's what is this specific story just within this story trying to tell me, and then there's what is the bigger picture? What are all of these? Because I have to remember that just within a story itself. Stop bringing every other story I've ever heard that deals with any kind of anything to do with this all into the same thing and try to lump them into the same thing, because they aren't the same thing. They're all different stories. They don't touch each other. Stop that. Just within this one. Just keep it within this one. What are you trying to tell me within this one? Sometimes I can't help bringing in other stuff because I know that the source is very related. I mean, when it comes to Chinese dramas, what you see on TV, the source would be like, censorship. What are they censoring? These are all very similar types of stories. They're all set certain genres, certain whatever. And I know in order to make it to TV, they have their censorship thing. And those people that are censoring it have very specific things they're looking for. And I'm not even sure if it's always the same things. I kind of feel like whatever's happening currently slightly changes what they're censoring, because why? So it's hard not to bring the whole bigger picture into this, into each story. Like all these other stories are the same, and they're all affecting each other because there are very similar things like censorship happening. It's the same people censoring for the same things. So I'm like, what are you trying to tell me? And why are you trying to tell me this? What is the agenda here? Because well done stories, even well done stories that don't push something very specific on you, even they have agendas. Like, agenda being the reason why this was written, the reason why this was presented this way. Like, there is always a reason, even if the reason is accidental. It's kind of like in Hold a Court, where Hold a Court Now? Such an awkward title. Anyway, there was a point where the girl told the emotional story, and when the judges are deliberating, he said she might have emotionally manipulated us, and people are like, are you saying she did this on purpose? And he's like, well, not necessarily. Like, that was the gist of it. Paraphrasing, whatever. But that was basically the point. And the thing is, yes, regularly, people are emotionally manipulating each other, and often, regularly, don't even know that's what they're doing, and yet that is what they're doing. It's a regular tactic, especially these days. People rely heavily on using emotions to convince people of something they want to convince them of. And that is what, like, I hate it when I'm watching a story and I can tell they're emotionally manipulating me. Do not do that. I am too logical, and I'm also, like, I have been emotionally manipulated in my life, and I hate that feeling. I do not want to be emotionally manipulated. A little bit of subtleness to, like, poke me in a certain direction is okay sometimes. It's entirely depending why you're doing it, what you're doing. Like, using music in stories is key. Music is so important when telling stories, because music, like, it basically automatically emotionally manipulates you. That's what music does. It invokes the emotions. It gets the emotions stirring. It does stuff. So when you're doing a story, you're using music in order to sway people toward something. And you can do this in the right way and in a good way. And you can do it in a horribly, horrendously wrong way. And quite regularly, the Asians are doing it in a horribly, horrendously wrong way. And I say the Asians because the Koreans and the Chinese are horrible for it. The Japanese, I don't think, are quite as bad. But, everybody's capable of it. By accident or on purpose. I think that's the problem with the Korean and the Chinese. My big problem is that they are usually doing it entirely 100% on purpose. But they pretend like they aren't. And I'm like, now you're being dishonest on top of manipulative. Of course, manipulation automatically means you're being dishonest, but you know what I mean. Now you're being like blatantly dishonest and pretending that you're not. Like, you're doing this on purpose. Ugh, hate it. And then there's the, does this even make sense? Here's the thing. It is possible to understand where someone's coming from or what they're trying to tell you. It is very possible to 100% understand it because it makes sense. Like, within this little square box here, what they're saying, what they're doing, whatever, it makes sense. At least on the surface. And this is where it leads into the third thing. But, because some things, sometimes I'm watching stuff and I'm looking at stuff and whatever, and I'm analyzing and I'm like, this literally does not make sense. It in and of itself is like blatantly contradicting itself. It's not working. It's tearing itself apart. It's destroying everything. It's not working. It logically is not working. We are like, every time we take a step, the boards below us, if there wasn't even any to begin with, are just breaking and we're falling through and have to keep kind of trying to climb back up. And yet, by the end of it, they're pretending like like everything made sense. And I'm like, but it didn't. It continually didn't make sense. If you take what they said here and what they said here, they contradicted themselves and it just doesn't make sense. It doesn't work. And sometimes within stories, it's only subtly. And you can kind of, ignore it because it was just a subtle, like, nobody's perfect. Nothing is perfect. But when somebody's building a story and they're doing their best and it's like, okay, this one little thing didn't quite work, but that's okay because it was so small and everything else was so well done and it didn't really affect the bigger picture. It just kind of affected this over here. And it this often happens with magic because whether there's spoken rules or whether there's just the author knows this, there's always some kind of foundational rule to dictate what is possible and what is not possible within the magic world, and even outside of the magic world, what is possible and what is not. Reality, people, things are possible and things are not possible. So within your story, what's possible and what's not. And sometimes when things don't make sense, it's because you actually broke a rule or you bent it a little too much and you might not have realized you did, or you did it on purpose because you really needed this to happen, but it couldn't happen because of this. So you kind of bent that a little bit because according to all of this, it really does. That is what needs to go. You're logically following through whatever. This is what needs to happen. But you set this rule over here and you're like, oh, crap. It worked with everything else, but not this. So you kind of got to bend it or break it somehow so that this can happen. And, okay, it works. And then other times I'm watching it and I'm like, this is legit. No matter what, it just doesn't work. And that is what, does this even make sense? Me. And then you come to the third thing where, is this even true? And that's the one where a lot of people wouldn't care because it's just a story. But the thing is, it's not just a story, not to me at least, because what we watch and what we hear and what we see, there's a video that the second story lady did, and I agree with so much of what she said. I can't say I agree with everything because a lot of her videos, I'd have to think about it more and watch it a couple of times and all that stuff. So I cannot say that I 100% agree with everything she always says. There are times when I definitely disagree, and there are times when I'm like, I'm not sure if I agree or not. But that video was a very interesting one because a lot of what she said was very true. And it's something that I've been trying to tell people for a long time now, actually. That is the point of my channel, is that it's not just a story. It does affect you most often a lot more than you realized it does. Because we get our ideas from stories. We start hearing things and then we hear it often enough that even if we didn't really believe it to begin with, all of a sudden we find ourselves believing it. Or we start repeating facts and we forget where we got it from and it turns out it was just a story and wasn't even true to begin with. Well, now I'm spreading stuff that's not even really necessarily true. It just came from this story over here that maybe within the story it kind of worked, but in reality it's not even true. Or whatever. So this question is actually super important. It's one of the ones that's the most important to me, but it's one of the ones that other people maybe don't care about. So maybe that's why there's not a lot of people to watch my videos, because they don't care. And I'm like, but please do care. It actually is important. And part of the problem in the world today is that people believe that there's my truth and your truth, and that is fundamentally incorrect. There is your perspective, there is your opinion, but there is also a truth. Not a truth, sorry, that is what's incorrect. There is the truth. There was that meme a long time ago, and it has circulated and made it has firmly grasped people, and everybody are convinced that it is right, but it's not. That whole was it a 6 or was it a 9? Well, from my perspective, it's a 9. Well, from my perspective, it's a 6. So we're both right. Because, whether you turn it this way or this way. And what y'all forget is that somebody wrote that to begin with. And when they wrote it, they either wrote a 9 or they wrote a 6. And that is the truth of the matter. Is it a 9 or is it a 6? Well, what was actually written to begin with? You can't just take something somebody says or does and just flip it around to mean whatever you want it to mean. It actually meant something to begin with. And if you just plain ignore that and do whatever you feel like in order to make it your truth, that doesn't work. Even when you go to, what is your favorite flavor of ice cream? Well, it's my truth that strawberry is the best. And it's my truth that vanilla is the best. And it's your truth that chocolate is the best. You can't word it that way because that's not true. I mean, stop using that, quit twisting that word around so it completely loses meaning. There is the truth. And then there's like, according to your taste buds and your opinion and your decision, because guess what? For one thing, that can change over time. You might absolutely love strawberry until you're 10 years old. And then all of a sudden, something changes and chocolate becomes your favorite. Well, now what? It was the truth that at that time, that was your favorite flavor. But when you said strawberry is the best flavor in the entire world, nothing beats strawberry, and now you say chocolate is the best in the entire world and nothing beats chocolate, which one is the truth? Even to say the current truth doesn't even, you start playing word games and then you lose the plot entirely. So, there is the truth. And, a lot of these things, that might be what you currently believe, that might be your opinion, that might be something, well, whatever, let's have a talk about this, but there is such a thing as the truth. Whether you like it or not, there is the truth. Whether you reject the truth or not you have a right to believe whatever you want to believe, but just because you believe something, even if you believe it sincerely, that doesn't make it the truth. So yeah, there's that whole kinds of things. Tons of people will disagree with me, and then there are tons of people that disagree with me on the surface, but it turns out they actually, that's a comforting thought, because it actually is, okay? It really is. If you're looking for hope and you're looking for something in this world and you feel like there's something wrong right now, that is one of the biggest things that's wrong right now, is that everybody thinks there's my truth and your truth and there's no such thing as the truth. But flip that around, because there's your opinion and my opinion, and there's what I believe and there's what you believe, but there is also the truth out there. There is a solid 100% fact, truth, and it's based on facts and realities. That's what the truth is based on facts and realities, with evidence to back it up and proof that it is the truth, not just something somebody thinks or whatever. So when I'm watching all of these stories, these are things that are always floating around in my head. It's always floating around in my head. And so, I don't know. That's a little rambly thing that I don't know what I'm going to do with, or if I'm even going to use. And I need to stop talking because I need to eat. So, bye.